Hello, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Financial Freedom Friday on January 14th, 2022. Can you imagine that we're already 2 weeks into the new year? And I don't know about you, but man, I've had a lot of things happening in my life and the life of my friends around me. And between their work situations, COVID, and other situations, it is an interesting time to be alive. You know what I'm saying? And it just highlights more and more and more the need to take action on the things that you deem important to yourself and that you really want to see happen. Take action today because tomorrow's not promised. Okay. So, what I want to talk to you about today is as we talk about some financial fundamentals, and it's called the $1 million baby. I'm going to review real quick what we went through last week as we go through a quick review. And yeah, next slide. A quick review, next slide. Financial independence we've talked about is the state of having sufficient personal wealth to live without having to work actively for basic necessities. And I know that yesterday is the day when you'd like to have that be true for yourself. Okay, but we're going to talk about a concept today where you can start making that a reality for your current generation and future generations. Today's topic, we're going to start moving towards some things that you can actually take action on. Hello, Ms. Cox from Holly Springs. And let's keep going. Next slide is talking about literacy. We talked about literacy as being competent or knowledgeable in a specific area. And our time is about being financially literate, which includes understanding how to earn, spend, save, manage, and invest money. In the first two shows, we covered some things on earning. Then we had a guest in for a couple of sessions to talk about entrepreneurship. Now we're jumping into the financial literacy piece, which is going to be about the spend, save, managing, and investing part. And we're just going to circle back through these topics and go deeper and deeper each time. And the key is taking action. So if you go to the next slide, I really encourage you to take the financial literacy quiz at this web link here, howmoneyworks.com/my name. Hello, Mr. Thomas in College Park, Maryland. I was in Maryland this morning with a new client. Gus Tucker challenge. If you would do that, take the quiz, send me what your score is, and I'll send you a free ebook. Okay? And I'd like to know what you think about the quiz and your experience taking it. The next slide is the book that we're using as a source book. It's called How Money Works. It's written by some colleagues of mine at the firm that I work at, Tom Matthews, who's a CPA, and Steve Siebold, who's a internationally known speaker and writer. Get this book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. And it's based on the idea that you ever go to the bank and you go to the teller, and back in the day, and even today, they have a little dish there with some suckers in it. And the suckers are called dum-dums. And the suckers are on the outside of the teller window, not on the inside. So they take a play on the fact that we're the dum-dums because we allow the bank to take our money and loan it out and make billions of dollars on it while they pay us next to nothing in terms of deposit interest. And we want to change that around. We want to change that around. We don't want you to put your money in the bank. We want you to put your money where the bank puts their money. And we'll talk more and more about that. Don't put your money in the bank. Put your money where the bank puts their money, okay? So next slide is we're going to summarize. Financial independence is created 3 times. First time in your mind and your emotions. Create a clear picture mentally of what financial independence looks and feels like to you. What does that feel like? What does that feel like? What does that look like? Second time on paper. We just came out of December and we're in January where A lot of people have made New Year's resolutions or set goals. So put on paper, okay, what you see and feel. Record your voice in terms of what financial independence means to you. Specifically, why you must have it. Because your obsessions become your possessions. The things that you focus on are the things that you will achieve. And last time we were together, you watched that video on the reticular activating system. If you missed that, go back and look at last week's session, and we played a video about the reticular activating system. It's a part of your brain your brain is set up to help you reach your goals. But you got to tell your brain what the goal is. And then it'll push out all the information that has nothing to do with your goals, and then it'll bring all the information and people that has something to do with your goals into your life. Okay? But you got to program it. And the third time is take action on your written plan to make it happen starting right now. Have your plan in writing, have dates and levels of accomplishment tied to your goals and tied to the 7 money milestones we're going to talk about. And then financial freedom will happen. It's a planned event. Financial freedom, financial independence is a planned event. It's not something that we just wake up and it happens. It's a planned event. So the next slide, we talked about these things. These are the reasons why I must be financially independent. And the next slide is the reason, the feelings that I want to have as I become financially independent. And so the next slide is your zero-based budget and the time value of money. That the time is now. By the end of January, you got 2 more weeks. Review 3 months of your bank, credit card, and financial statements and write down what you've been spending. Look at what you've been saving. Look at what you've been investing. Okay? And you got 2 kinds of spending. Non-discretionary, which is must-have basic things. Like you got to pay the rent or the mortgage. You got to pay your utilities. Okay? Or you got to buy some food. You gotta pay gas for your car. So what are those have-tos? Non-discretionary are have-tos. And the discretionary are the nice-to-haves. Kind of makes life more fun and more enjoyable. What are those things? And then you're going to put them in categories: discretionary, non-discretionary. And the ratio should be 40% for living, 20% for debt, 10% for giving, and then 30% for saving and investing. And the goal is pay off all that debt, consumer debt, and then that 20% can go more to lifestyle or to some of the other areas, okay? And the time value of money, $100 saved for 20 years is about $66,000, okay? So if we can start, and we can, putting money away for the future, it's going to make all the difference in the world. All right, next slide. Again, read the book. Develop your 10 reasons and feelings for having financial independence. Complete your zero-based budget. And know your percentages where your money's going every month, okay? Hey, I'm doing the same thing you are. So make this happen, okay? Make this happen, make this happen, make this happen. So get excited about our new material. And then we can skip forward to the compound interest slide, that light blue slide. There you go. Compound interest is the greatest mathematical discovery of our time. Here's the bottom line, guys. Hey, Tanisha, how you doing? It's all about making money work for you versus against you. You've heard people say, I want to have my money work for you and not against me. But that's what compound interest is about. If you have a credit card at 9, 10, 20%, it's compounding debt against you that you have to pay off. If you've got real estate, hopefully it's appreciating. If you've got investments in the stock market, hopefully it's appreciating. If you've got a business that you're investing in, it's appreciating. When you do those things year after year after year, compounds. And then the interest compounds on the interest, compounds on the interest. And the day will come, you'll have more interest coming in every month, every year that you even need to live on. Now you're financially independent. Okay? Next slide is all about retirement. I know one day we want to be done with actively working for money. To do that, we need to have enough assets creating income for us than we do have expenses. And so for a lot of people, it's about Social Security and they got their 401k, but that's not enough. it only covers about 40% of what you need. The rest of it has to come from personal savings. You know, you need at least 70% of your pre-retirement income coming from you to make that happen. Okay. So this session, this time is about creating that 70%, creating what's not going to be created by Social Security and your 401k, making that happen, because that's on you. Bottom line is no generation is saving enough. You can read these numbers on this slide as well as I can. Next slide. Millennials, Gen Xers, and baby boomers. Hey, we're not saving enough. So I want you to think about this. If you want to live on $50,000 a year, and you're going to do it from your savings, from what you've invested, not from real estate or a business, you're going to have to save over $1 million. Because 4% of $1.25 million is $50,000. Well, where'd you get the 4% from? Well, the stock market on average has been doing 8.8%. It doesn't do it every year, but that's the average. 4% is a conservative number that you can take out year after year and not eat up your principal, the base amount you have invested. So that being the case, how much do I need at 4% to create $50,000? If you divide 0.04 into $1.25 million, you'll get 50 grand. So where are you at right now against saving your first $1.25 million? As you can see from these savings numbers, it's going to be dependent on how many years do you have to you're going to retire, and how much can you put in every year, and what's your rate of return. Okay? And hey, we can work with you on figuring out those numbers. Find somebody who can help you to do that. We can help you to do that. Somebody else can help you to do that. But you want a game plan on how you're going to get to that retirement. Next slide. And basically, this is just a picture that says, hey, if you don't save enough money and you leave this gray open space over here above the line, hey, you got to go back to work. Your slide, if you look up to the next slide, you got to fill that gray line in with money, or you're going to be at work forever. Okay, next slide. Okay, how suckers think. Suckers think that there are haves and have-nots. It's the way things always have been and the way they'll always be. That person has given up their personal power, given up their ability to make things different, and just resigned to live a life of mediocrity. Doesn't have to be that way. You can make a difference in your life if you choose to. How do the wealthy think? Wealthy, part of wealth is money. Part of it has nothing to do with money. It's relationships. It's with how you think. It's your ideas. It's your network of people. Okay? All that creates your wealth. It's not just money. How do wealthy people think? I may not have learned about personal finance in school, but with the right information, the economic crisis of financial literacy doesn't have to be my personal crisis. In other words, there's information, there's help, there's opportunity for you to overcome whatever financial situation you're in if you're looking for it. And you got the right mindset, okay? And if you're here, you got the right mindset. All right, so we're going to move on to the next section. That was a review. The next section, we've covered financial literacy, the compound interest, time value of money. Next is $1 Million Baby. That's what we're going to talk about today. Next slide, $1 Million Baby. Okay, now I want you guys to do me a favor. As I go through this slide right here, this is about a gift of a future. The gift of a future. The gift of, go to the next slide. The gift of a future to the babies that come into your family. So $1 Million Baby is a common sense strategy that's going to empower your family to create a legacy for all the children that come into your family. Here's something I want you to do. Wherever you're at, if you're driving, don't do it while you're driving. Pull over to the side of the road. If you're at home, get out a piece of paper or your computer or tablet or whatever it is you use to make notes. And I want you to do something for me. I want you to write down the names of everybody that's 19 years old. You can go up to 20 and under in your family. These are sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, godchildren, your play cousins, okay, your grandsons, granddaughters, grandnieces and nephews, and your great grands, if you're so fortunate to have those. All that are 20 years old and under. So I want you to make that list. I'm gonna give you a little bit. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds. Start making that list and keep making that list. Keep making that list. Keep making that list of all those people in your life that are 20 years old and under. Now, if you look on the right side of this slide, it says only 20% of children receive an inheritance. Did you receive one? When you came along? Most of us did not. If something's only working 20% of the time, it's broken. What if you had a car and it only started 20% of the time? That's 1 day a week. You wouldn't like that, would you? What if you had a spouse that only came home 1 day a week? It wouldn't be a spouse very long, would they? Okay? So it's time to rethink. It's time to rethink how we leave a legacy. Okay? Did you write down the names of all those young people in your family? Did you get a list started? Okay. Because I want you to talk to their parents about this strategy that you're about to learn about today. Next slide. Which one of these things is more realistic for you? For you to write a check, option one, for you to write a check for $1 million as an inheritance to your kids from your personal savings. You just go to your checkbook, rip off a check, $1 million, boom, deposit it into the account of these young people I'm talking about. Or option number two, grow $1 million retirement for each child, starting with a small fraction of $1 million when they're young. Okay? So I want you to start thinking about, what are you willing to do to change your family's financial destiny? What are you willing to actually do? Okay? Next slide. So there are three realities, okay, in our life today. One is that makes it hard to leave an inheritance. One is we're living longer. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you're living longer, that means you need to invest money for your retirement. You need to use that money during your retirement so it leaves less money for your family, because you need that money to live on. Second reality is medical bills. The average person, when they retire, you can see on this slide, will spend $122,000 on their medical care starting at age 70. $122,000 on their medical care for the last years of their life. So guess what they're not doing with that money? They're not leaving it as an inheritance because it's going to medical care. Excuse me. It's going into medical care. The third thing is long-term care. This isn't covered by medical insurance. You need specific long-term care insurance. How many of you have people in your life that as they've gotten older, they've needed help around the house to take care of themselves? Where help doesn't come free. Even if it's from a family member who's not getting paid, it's not free because that family member is giving up the right to make money while they take care of that family member. So it's costing money. It's just not costing money out of pocket, but it's costing somebody some money. So those three things are really a challenge that we have to overcome to leave a legacy. Next slide. Common sense, which isn't so common. But this is common sense that can be worth over $1 million to you. People know when they're going to have a baby 9 months before they have it. Right? Isn't that how it works? So the number one thing we have when we find out we're about to have a baby, the number one thing that baby has to create an inheritance, a legacy for itself, is time. Lord willing, the creek don't rise, that baby's going to live 80, 90 years. So we've got time if we plan ahead before the child can plan ahead for themselves and before they can create income for themselves. If we plan ahead, we can make a difference for that child. Now look back at that list of people you wrote down. All your children, your nieces and nephews, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Look at that list. People who are pregnant right now. I know a friend of mine, he's got 5 kids. They're all married. He had a daughter get married in November. She's pregnant with her first child. She got married a little bit later in life. So bang. And he's got 3 of his 5 children are pregnant. One of them's pregnant with twins. They're going to have 4 new grandchildren in 2022, Lord willing. Wow. It can change overnight. So think about those children and think about time. Next slide. So there's 3 money concepts that we can leverage, that we can put to work for us to help with that new child or that young person. One is compound interest. Because interest power compounding on interest, the more time you have, the more it can compound. If you've never done it, get a piece of paper and write it down. So I've got it in my notebook right here. Where's it at? Where's my notebook? Where did I put it? I got a notebook. I had a notebook right here. Oh, here it is. It's on my printer. I had this notebook right here. And what I did was a penny doubled every day for 31 days. So I numbered 1 through 31 on this paper. And I started at 1 penny, then 2 penny on day 2, 4 cents on day 4, 8 cents on day 4, 16 cents on day 5. You'll be amazed what that number is on day 31. So imagine you do that for this new child or for your existing children under 20. They've got years for that money to compound. You'll be surprised how much money it can be. Next is the time value of money. Money saved today is worth more than money saved tomorrow. Let me say it again. Money saved today is more valuable than money saved tomorrow. Why? Because you have more time for it to grow. Does that make sense? And next is wealth protection. Down the road, we're going to show you how to use trust. TRUSTS. You heard of trust fund babies? Well, we want you to create a bunch of them and how you can use trust to protect your wealth. Okay? So what do we need to do? Complete that zero-based budget so you know where you're at. Commit to either starting your family financial legacy now or turbocharging one you've already started with some of the concepts we're talking about. Now listen to this. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. Think on that for a second. Planting trees that you don't even plan to be able to sit under. That means you're thinking about the future of the next generation. Okay? So what's the concept? Could you save $1 million for your child? Next slide. Then the next slide. Okay, the examples I'm going to show you, they're hypothetical. Okay? They're hypothetical. But I want you to know that what isn't hypothetical is if we don't do anything, we'll end up with 0. But if we do something, we'll end up with more than 0. Okay? So let's go to the next slide. Here are the ideas. Think about this. What if you could put away $13,000 for each of your children? A one-time $13,000 lump sum that grows from birth to age 67. One time, you come up with 13 grand. If you average 6.5% interest, you end up with $1 million. And what if I told you there are vehicles out there that you can use where that money grows tax advantage. It's not taxed. When you get ready to take it out, it's not taxed. And if you were to pass away, it'll move on to the next generation, not taxed. And it's set up so along the way, you can't lose any money. That exists. Okay? So if you have $13,000 one time, put it away in one of these vehicles for your child, they're going to be millionaires. Basically, guaranteed, guaranteed. Millionaires. Okay, let's say you can't do that. Next option. So let's say you couldn't do that, but by the time they were 18, you could save that 13,000. Look what happens about time. They'd only end up with 300 grand. But 300 grand is better than zero, right? But that 18-year gap, how much did that cost us? $700,000. That's the time value of money. That 18 years made that $13,000 really worth another $700,000. So that 18,000, that 13,000 that you didn't have when they were born cost us $700,000 down the road. You see why it's important to get saving now and put yourself in a position to save and invest now? Next slide. Okay, let's say we don't have 13 grand. But what we do is you had 2,500. You had 2,500 bucks we could come up with. And you put that down, and then you put $250 a month away for 4 years for each one of those kids. 2,500 to start, and then $250 a month. You still end up with $1 million for that kid. Tax advantage. I don't want to say tax free, but under the tax laws right now, tax advantage that you wouldn't pay taxes on. Okay? Wow. Now, if you waited, next slide. If you waited till 18, you have to put 2,500 down and 250 for every month, but we need a one-time infusion of 12 grand after we put in that 2,500, and you end up with the same $300,000. Okay? So, next slide. Which one of these things would make sense for you? Now, neither one of them. Well, how about this? How about we customize a plan that you can do and see how close we can get to that $1 million for each one of your children? It's better than zero, yes? Okay. Now, to read this slide, according to the data of the United Nations, 250 children are born in the world every minute. Imagine how different their lives would be if every family created a savings plan for their child that couldn't be touched until they retired. That's that tree. That's planting that tree that you won't sit under. That you won't sit under. But your child will, and their children will. Hello? And I will show you how to use trust to make sure that happens and make sure it passes on to the next generation. Now, you read these bubbles over here, it says, wow, this would give children greater freedom to explore, fail, and find their purpose throughout their lives, all because their parents took this one revolutionary step for them. You start saving before you start walking. I love it. It's every child is born $1 million baby. How would that have changed your life coming along? Okay, next slide. So what do you do to take action? Go take the challenge. Go take the challenge. Send me your score, get a free ebook, and get an overview on the $1 million baby concept. If you'd like to know how that could work for you, let's talk about it and show you how that could work for you and your family. There's the information. We'll sit it up there for a minute. Okay? And you see your email, the email next to my name, Financial Freedom Friday. with an S, Fridays@gmail.com. And you can text me or call me at 312-569-0757. They'll take a message and we'll get back to you. 312-569-0757. Okay. So again, read the book, get your 10 reasons and feelings down, complete your zero-based budget, and hey, take the challenge, get your ebook, and learn how this $1 million baby concept could work for you and your family, okay? And that's what we got for you today. Hope it's helpful. Go back and listen to this again. Think about it. What if you, in your 50s and 60s, had $1 million available to you, or $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 available to you, because your parent, before you were born, had the wisdom to put something aside for you, and your fortunes were being put together for you before you could walk or talk or think for yourself. Isn't that what we're supposed to do for our children? It says in a book I read, a good man or woman leaves an inheritance to their children's children. It says in Proverbs. This is one of the ways you can do that. Okay, I'm out. You guys have a great weekend. Rewatch this. Reach out to us. Let's make a difference for your family. For now and forever. This is forever, ever. Difference. Forever, ever? Yeah, forever, ever. All right? Have a good weekend. Take care.